In our fast-paced and often restless world, it's easy to get caught in the trap of obsessive pursuit. The drive to succeed, to connect, or to acquire something that we feel we lack can sometimes evolve into a constant and exhausting chase. When we obsess over something, whether it be a person, a goal, or a circumstance, we lose sight of the bigger picture. This is the danger of stalking in the figurative sense, not in the criminal or aggressive way we traditionally think of the term, but in the emotional and psychological pursuit that robs us of peace. To stalk in this context means to relentlessly chase after something or someone, never allowing ourselves the freedom to let go and trust that what's meant it's come in its own time. At its core, stalking can be seen as an act of desperation, where we try to control outcomes, forcing them to happen on our terms. Whether we're seeking validation, trying to fix a relationship, or pushing for success in a way that becomes obsessive, we allow this pursuit to dominate our lives. What happens when we stalk something emotionally or mentally is that we start to lose touch with the very essence of what makes us whole. We start to define our happiness, self-worth, and value by whether or not we're able to obtain that which we're chasing. And in doing so, we ignore the fact that life is unpredictable and fluid. Not everything is meant to happen on our schedule, and not everything or everyone is meant to be in our lives. There's an inherent danger in this kind of pursuit. First, it takes a significant toll on our mental and emotional well-being. The constant chasing creates a sense of tension, anxiety, and unease. We may start to feel like we're never quite enough because we're always measuring ourselves against an ideal that exists in our minds, but not necessarily in reality. This chase becomes all-consuming. We begin to fixate on what we don't have, obsess over the things we feel we need, and forget the beauty of what's already around us. The joy of life, however, comes from balance, not from the stress of never-ending pursuit. By letting go of the need to control everything, we create space for things to unfold naturally, allowing them to come into our lives when they are meant to. Another aspect of this obsession with pursuit is that it often leads to frustration. When we stalk something or someone, we place ourselves in a position of constant disappointment. We constantly set expectations that might not align with reality. Whether it's chasing after a specific career goal, waiting for someone to recognize our worth, or trying to win someone's affection, this pursuit often results in outcomes that don't meet our expectations. And when this happens, we are left feeling even more disconnected from our peace and self-worth. The more we chase, the more we push away. The more we try to control, the more we stifle the natural flow of life. We set ourselves up for emotional burnout, and ultimately we risk losing the very things we hope to achieve by chasing them. True contentment doesn't come from obsessive pursuit, but rather from the ability to release our grip and trust in the timing of life. When we stop stalking our desires, we create the space for them to manifest authentically. We allow for the possibility that the right people, opportunities, and experiences will come into our lives when they are meant to, and not according to our rushed timeline. Trust is key here. Trust in yourself, trust in the process, trust in the universe, or whatever higher power you believe in. Trust that the things that are meant for you will find their way to you without your constant chasing. This doesn't mean that we should sit idly by and wait for things to happen. There's a significant difference between stalking something and taking deliberate action. Taking action requires mindfulness, intentionality, and patience. It's about moving forward with purpose and clarity, not out of a sense of urgency or desperation. When you stop stalking something or someone, you free yourself from the anxiety of trying to control the outcome, and you open yourself up to receiving whatever is meant to come. You give yourself permission to rest and be present with where you are, rather than constantly feeling as if you are lacking or missing something. Living in the moment and embracing what can sometimes be the hardest thing to do. We are often taught that we should always be striving, always chasing something, be it success, love, or validation. But by learning to let go, we allow ourselves the opportunity to grow and experience life in its fullness. The pursuit of our goals becomes more joyful, and the relationships we form are deeper and more meaningful, because we stop seeking approval or chasing perfection. We begin to realize that it's the journey, not the destination, that truly matters. It's the lessons we learn along the way, the people we meet, and the growth we experience that define our lives, not the things we chase. The act of stalking something, whether it's an ideal, a person, or a goal, only serves to distract us from the richness of life. It puts us in a constant state of pursuit, causing unnecessary stress and preventing us from fully embracing the present. Letting go of this obsession frees us to live authentically, allowing the things that truly matter to come into our lives at their own pace. When we trust in the process and release the need to control outcomes, we invite peace, fulfillment, and balance into our lives. The key to true success and happiness lies not in chasing after everything we desire, but in letting go of the desperate need to do so. Trust the journey, be patient, and most importantly, trust that what is meant for you will find its way to you. The act of seeking is often viewed as a natural and even necessary part of life. We seek knowledge, we seek opportunities, and we seek connections. But there is a subtle danger in constant seeking, one that can lead us into a cycle of dissatisfaction and restlessness. It's easy to fall into the trap of believing that happiness, success, or fulfillment exists somewhere outside of ourselves, and that if we just look hard enough or long enough, we will find it. However, this mindset often leaves us in a perpetual state of yearning, never fully content with what we have in the present moment. The key to finding true contentment lies not in seeking constantly, but in recognizing that the answers we are searching for often reside within us. When we stop seeking, we open ourselves up to the deeper truths that lie beneath the surface of our desires, discovering the peace that comes from accepting ourselves in the present moment. When we constantly seek validation or approval from external sources, we are placing our worth in the hands of others. We look to social media for affirmation, to colleagues for recognition, to family or friends for acceptance. We measure our success based on the opinions and reactions of others, and in doing so, we give away our personal power. Seeking approval is a never-ending cycle. The more we seek it, the more we crave it, and the more we crave it, the less satisfied we feel when we receive it. This can be especially true in our world of instant gratification, where likes, comments, and shares are often seen as markers of success. But these external measures are fleeting, and they can never provide the lasting fulfillment we are truly after. True contentment does not come from the validation of others. It comes from within. The moment we stop seeking approval is the moment we begin to embrace who we truly are. We stop measuring ourselves against someone else's standards and start honoring our own. We stop living for the expectations of others and begin living for our own values and desires. This shift is empowering. It allows us to connect more deeply with our authentic selves and live our lives according to our own terms. It is in this self-acceptance that we find the freedom to grow, evolve, and flourish. We stop seeking to fit into a mold and instead create our own. The danger of constant seeking is also present when it comes to material things. In a consumer-driven society, we are constantly bombarded with messages telling us that we need more clothes, more gadgets, more recognition, more experiences. The marketing world thrives on our desire to seek what we don't have, and in doing so, we are conditioned to believe that happiness lies just beyond our reach, in the next purchase or the next achievement. But this mindset leads to emptiness. The more we seek external possessions or status symbols, the less fulfilled we feel. The thrill of acquiring something new is often short-lived, and before long we find ourselves searching for the next thing to fill the void. True happiness does not come from material possessions. It comes from the experiences we create, the people we connect with, and the peace we cultivate within ourselves. When we stop seeking outwardly and begin looking inwardly, we are able to tap into a deeper sense of fulfillment. We begin to realize that we already have everything we need to be happy. The beauty of life is not found in the things we collect, but in the way we experience each moment. It is in the laughter shared with loved ones, the quiet moments of reflection, and the simple pleasures of being present. Seeking in this sense becomes counterproductive. The more we chase after what we don't have, the less we appreciate what we already possess. The key to contentment lies not in seeking what's next, but in appreciating what's now. Another form of seeking that can be detrimental is the search for perfection. Whether it's the perfect body, the perfect career, the perfect relationship, or the perfect life, the pursuit of perfection is an endless journey that leads nowhere. Perfection, by its very nature, is an illusion. There is no such thing as a perfect person, a perfect life, or a perfect moment. Yet, we often find ourselves seeking these ideals, believing that achieving them will bring us the happiness we desire. But the truth is, perfection only serves to trap us in a cycle of self-criticism and frustration. When we stop seeking perfection, we give ourselves permission to embrace imperfection. We recognize that our flaws and mistakes are part of what makes us human, and they are just as valuable as our successes. By letting go of the need to be perfect, we open ourselves up to the possibility of growth and transformation. We start to appreciate the beauty in the imperfect, in the messy and the real. Seeking constantly also causes us to miss out on the richness of the present moment. Our focus is always on what's next, or we still don't have, or what we feel is missing in our lives. We fail to appreciate the present for what it is, a fleeting, precious moment that will never come again. When we stop seeking, we allow ourselves to be fully present. We begin to savor life, appreciating the people, experiences, and opportunities that are in front of us right now. We stop rushing toward the next goal and start living in the here and now. This shift is transformative. It frees us from the pressures of always chasing and opens us up to the deep joy that can be found in simply being. The act of seeking is not inherently negative. It becomes harmful when it becomes an endless pursuit, driven by a belief that fulfillment exists outside of ourselves. The truth is, happiness and contentment are not found in external sources, but in the way we view ourselves and the world around us. By letting go of the constant need to seek, we free ourselves from the cycle of dissatisfaction and restlessness. We begin to appreciate what we already have, embrace our imperfections, and cultivate the peace that comes from living in the present moment. The key to true fulfillment lies in understanding that everything we seek is already within us. All we need to do is stop seeking and start being. The act of begging in its essence represents a state of vulnerability, a position where we relinquish control over our desires and hopes. It's an act that, while it can be born out of desperation, signals a loss of self-worth and personal power. In relationships, careers, or any area of life, begging for recognition, affection, or approval is detrimental not just to the person being begged, but more importantly, to the person doing the begging. Begging reflects an imbalance. It places one individual in a subservient position and the other in a position of power. When we beg, we deny ourselves the dignity of standing in our own power and undermine the very essence of what we are trying to achieve. Begging, whether for love, attention, or respect, often stems from the belief that we are not enough as we are, that our worth is defined by how much someone else values us or how much we can obtain from external sources. This mindset, however, is inherently flawed. It strips away the power of self-love and self-acceptance. When we beg, we suggest to ourselves and others that we are incomplete and need someone or something else to feel whole. This dependency on others to validate our worth diminishes our sense of autonomy and causes us to lose sight of our inherent value. We are so focused on what we lack that we forget the most important truth. We are already whole, just as we are. When we beg, we also create an unhealthy dynamic in our relationships. Whether it's in a personal or professional context, begging for someone's attention or affection places unnecessary pressure on the other person. Instead of fostering mutual respect and equality, it creates a sense of obligation. The person on the receiving end of the plea may feel uncomfortable, trapped, or resentful because the power balance has shifted. What should be a healthy, balanced relationship becomes one of unequal power dynamics. Both individuals become entangled in a cycle of dependence, and the connection becomes warped. Rather than fostering genuine connection, begging fosters a sense of imbalance that can lead to emotional exhaustion, resentment, and dissatisfaction. When we beg for something, we lose the ability to recognize our own agency. We place the outcome of our lives in the hands of others, believing that their decisions or actions will determine our happiness. This can happen in romantic relationships, in the workplace, or even in our social circles. We beg for love from a partner, approval from our boss, or acceptance from a group, all the while forgetting that we have the power to define our own worth. Instead of waiting for someone to grant us permission to be ourselves, we should take ownership of our lives and confidently claim our own space. The moment we stop begging, we reclaim our autonomy and begin to chart our own course. We recognize that we are the architects of our happiness and fulfillment, not others. The process of begging also reveals an underlying fear, the fear of rejection, the fear of inadequacy, the fear of not being enough. These fears are deeply ingrained in us and often drive us to seek validation in unhealthy ways. However, it is important to understand that fear is a natural part of life, but it should not dictate our actions. When we beg, we allow fear to control us. We act out of desperation, afraid that if we don't plead for what we want, we will lose it forever. But by acting from a place of fear, we only perpetuate the cycle of insecurity and dependence. The more we beg, the more we reinforce the idea that we are not enough without the approval or affection of others. True confidence and strength come from self-acceptance and trust. When we stop begging, we stop allowing fear to dominate our decisions and actions. We recognize that, regardless of external outcomes, we are worthy, whole, and deserving of all the good things life has to offer. We trust that the right people, opportunities, and experiences will come to us without the need to beg or plead. Life has a natural flow, and when we stop begging for things to happen, we align ourselves with that flow. We start to attract people and opportunities that match our energy and vibration, people who value us for who we are and not because we are begging for their approval. When we stop begging, we also stop settling. Begging often stems from the belief that we cannot do better or that we are not worthy of anything greater. We accept situations or relationships that are not in our best interest because we fear that we cannot find anything better. This self-imposed limitation keeps us stuck in unhealthy dynamics and prevents us from pursuing the things that truly bring us joy and fulfillment. By stopping the act of begging, we create space for better, more aligned opportunities. We give ourselves permission to walk away from relationships or situations that no longer serve us, knowing that we are worthy of something more. When we stop begging, we raise our standards and begin to see ourselves as deserving of the best that life has to offer. The act of begging is also detrimental to our personal growth. Growth happens when we stand firm in our beliefs, values, and boundaries. When we beg for something, we are often willing to compromise on what truly matters to us, just to gain the approval or affection of someone else. This compromises our integrity and prevents us from growing into the best version of ourselves. By ceasing to beg, we reaffirm our commitment to our values and what we stand for. We stop making compromises that hinder our growth and instead focus on building a life that is authentic and aligned with who we are. Growth thrives when we act from a place of strength and self-respect, not from a place of desperation. Begging for anything, whether it's love, approval, or recognition, diminishes our sense of self-worth and creates unhealthy dynamics in our relationships. It robs us of our personal power and prevents us from experiencing life from a place of confidence and authenticity. When we stop begging, we reclaim our autonomy, trust in our worth, and stop settling for less than we deserve. By trusting in ourselves and embracing self-love, we free ourselves from the grip of fear and rejection. The act of begging is a call for us to recognize that we are enough, just as we are, and that the right things will come to us without the need for desperate pleas. True fulfillment comes when we stand tall with self-respect and trust that we are worthy of all the blessings life has to offer. Fear, an inherent part of the human experience, has the potential to both protect and paralyze us. It is a natural response to uncertainty, a mechanism designed to keep us safe from danger. Yet when fear begins to control our decisions, it can prevent us from living fully and embracing the opportunities life offers. Fear can act as a barrier, one that limits our growth, restricts our freedom, and confines us within the narrow boundaries of our comfort zones. In the context of the title, Don't Stalk, Don't Seek, Don't Beg, Don't Fear, the message is clear. We must learn to confront and overcome fear in order to live a life of authenticity, confidence, and self-assurance. Fear, if allowed to dominate our lives, can strip us of the courage needed to pursue our dreams, take risks, and experience the fullness of life. One of the most debilitating forms of fear is the fear of failure. This fear can manifest in many ways, from the avoidance of challenges to the paralysis that accompanies uncertainty. The fear of failing often leads us to hold back, to question our abilities, or to second-guess our decisions. When we fear failure, we avoid trying new things, and in doing so, we prevent ourselves from growing. We may stay stuck in a job, a relationship, or a situation that no longer serves us simply because we are afraid of stepping into the unknown. The fear of failure often causes us to settle for mediocrity, thinking that it is safer to remain in a familiar situation rather than risk stepping into the unknown and potentially failing. However, failure is not something to fear, but something to embrace as an inevitable part of growth. Each failure holds valuable lessons that can propel us forward if we choose to learn from them. By fearing failure, we miss out on the opportunity to grow, to discover new paths, and to ultimately reach our full potential. The fear of rejection can keep us from expressing our true selves and forming meaningful connections. Rejection, whether in love, friendships, or professional situations, can sting deeply. It taps into our insecurities and makes us question our worth. But when we allow the fear of rejection to control us, we stop taking risks, stop reaching out to others, and stop being authentic. We modify our behavior to fit into societal expectations, trying to please others rather than honoring our true selves. The fear of rejection can make us suppress our desires, hold back our opinions, or avoid pursuing the things we truly want in life. However, rejection is not a reflection of our worth. It is simply a redirection, an indication that something is not aligned. When we stop fearing rejection, we free ourselves to be genuine, to express our desires, and to attract people who truly resonate with who we are. Rejection becomes less of a threat and more of a catalyst for growth. teaching us to refine our approach and find the opportunities that are better suited to our unique selves. Another form of fear that can prevent us from fully engaging with life is the fear of the unknown. The uncertainty of the future can trigger anxiety, making us hesitant to take steps forward or make significant life changes. The fear of the unknown often keeps us tethered to the past, preventing us from moving forward or embracing new opportunities. Whether it's the fear of changing careers, moving to a new city, or starting a new relationship, the unknown can feel overwhelming and daunting. We cling to the familiar because it provides a sense of security, even if it is no longer serving us. However, life is inherently uncertain, and it is only by stepping into the unknown that we allow ourselves to experience new possibilities. The fear of the unknown can be paralyzing, but it is also the very thing that holds us back from discovering new dimensions of life. When we face the unknown with courage, we open ourselves to the potential for growth, change, and transformation. Fear can also manifest as self-doubt, a deeply ingrained belief that we are not capable, worthy, or deserving of success. This form of fear is often tied to our past experiences, our upbringing, or societal conditioning that tells us we are not enough. Self-doubt is a silent killer of dreams. It tells us that we should not take that leap, that we are not qualified enough, or that we don't deserve success. When we allow self-doubt to take hold, we limit ourselves in profound ways. We begin to question our abilities and stop pursuing our goals. This fear of inadequacy can cause us to remain in the background, never stepping into the spotlight or taking the risks necessary for success. Overcoming self-doubt requires a deep shift in mindset, a belief that we are capable, that we are deserving, and that we have the ability to overcome obstacles. By quieting the voice of self-doubt, we can create a path toward the life we desire. It is through action, through pushing past the fear of not being good enough, that we build the confidence necessary to succeed. Fear keeps us from living fully, from stepping into the fullness of our potential in our lives. Fear restricts us, creates barriers, and prevents us from embracing change, growth, and new opportunities. The way to overcome fear is not by eliminating it. Fear is a natural and even protective response, but by not letting it dictate our actions. Instead of letting fear control us, we must learn to acknowledge it, understand it, and move forward despite it. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the ability to take action in the face of fear. By acknowledging our fears and acting in spite of them, we begin to diminish their power over us. The more we step into uncertainty, the more we train ourselves to handle fear with grace, resilience, and confidence. Over time, fear becomes less of a paralyzing force and more of an occasional visitor that no longer holds us back from pursuing what we truly desire. Fear has the power to limit us, but it is ultimately up to us how much power we allow it to have over our lives. The fear of failure, rejection, the unknown, and self-doubt can all prevent us from living fully and embracing the opportunities before us. By learning to face our fears, acknowledge their presence, and move forward regardless of them, we unlock the potential for growth and fulfillment. Fear is not something to be avoided, but something to be embraced as part of the human experience. When we stop fearing, we begin to live with greater freedom, authenticity, and purpose. We step into our true potential, knowing that every fear we conquer brings us closer to the life we are meant to live.